Look at that there. 6 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
Hello.
Hello.
For 2 years in the 1960s, Charles James Hall was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base outside of Las Vegas. There he claims to have had many experiences with tall white aliens, one of whom was known as Range 4 Harry. Charles's experiences have been detailed in the documentary Walking with Tall Whites. In this video, I share my own research into tall whites, which culminates with the extraordinary experience of camping with tall whites. When I watched the documentary Walking with Tall Whites, the first time I watched it for 30 minutes, and I ended up stopping it and not carrying on. Not because it wasn't interesting or well made, but because it was just all one guy. This is one guy and his accounts. There's no photos, there's no proof, there's no even evidence other than just one guy talking. And I thought, well, this is interesting, but there is nothing to back it up. And so I left it alone for a while, and then maybe a year later, somebody in my Las Vegas group contacted me and said, hey, I just watched that documentary and I know what they're talking about. What was your father's name?
His full name was Shalom Weiner, W-E-I-N-E-R. He went by Saul, S-O-L. Yes, apparently he joined the Army Air Corps in 39 or 40, and ended up stationed here at Nellis Air Force Base in 1963. And he would tell me stories of this Range 4 Harry and the children and the playground, because I remember I always wanted to go play with the children.
In the documentary, Charles talks about this being called Range 4 Harry. He seems to be like the leader of the tall whites, Range 4 Harry.
Yes, I remember him more as this like childhood story character, and it's funny, even my sister did too, because when her child was born, she's like, do you have any idea where Daddy used to get those Range 4 Harry stories? She was trying to find them for her child, as if they were some, published books that he was reading from. And we couldn't find it then, and just in thinking things, and then that documentary made things like flood back. It just started realizing this was actual stuff, and I do remember he was very insistent, like, to never forget Range 4 Harry. If you forget everything else I told you, so like he'd bring it up like later on in life sometime. You still remember those stories I tell you about Range 4 Harry?
Do you remember any of the stories?
Just that if we look real hard, we might find, he might come say hi. That I'm almost positive he said something about that, if we meet, that there's children that I might play with or something. We were out looking for them. If we could find them, like, I don't know. I need to work on trying to remember this better.
Do you think you ever did go out into the desert and look for Range 4 Harry or children out there?
Well, now that I'm thinking back on it, I'm thinking that was probably what we were doing. Now, I'm trying to remember if he ever said, like, he ever met them, or if he had heard of them and was hoping we could see them too.
And she said, when she was a kid, her father was in the Air Force, and he would take her out there into the desert, and they would sit on the hood of their car. I have to pause and think about that now. I should just speak English. They would sit on the bonnet of their car and look up into the sky and see all these UFOs, and I've got her on video describing this and the UFOs that she saw. So it must have been in the 70s when he would take you out?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Can you tell me what he used to do?
So we would go out in the desert and we would sky watch for UFOs, and we would see very cool light anomalies, and different like things flying around.
And tell me what they looked like when you would see them.
So the ones that stand out as some of the coolest lights, I don't remember ever seeing like actual ships hovering in us. It was always light and stuff. And some of the most I remember, there was one almost the size of the moon up there that seemed to spin and just hover over us, where there were lots of little ones that would fly back and forth and come back to that big one, and then it would zip around the sky somewhere and come back, and they were all doing that, zipping around the sky and coming back to that big one. And during all of that, I would see these like spotlights on the desert ground. We're out there in complete darkness, no one around. And we didn't have like police helicopters back then. The Air Force may have had them, but it wasn't like common to see like police helicopters with spotlights back then at all. But that's what it reminded me of, is what that looks like when they have the searchlight going around the ground. But what stood out was there was never a beam of light. I would try to figure out as a child, this was my mind thought, was to follow that beam of light to where it was coming from, but there was no beam. And that was the weird part, there was no beam, if that makes sense. There was just the light lighting up the desert floor.
Did you get the feeling that they knew you were there?
I know I used to always wish and think and pretend that I was a child, I know I was always, I remember being asked if my daddy would ask me, like, what would you do if they landed right here? And I'm like, I'd run up to them and go for a ride, like, I want to go for a ride. And then one time we brought friends with me, my friends were all, I'd run, I'm scared, I'd run. And I was like the only one that wanted to know, I'm running to them, I want to go for a ride. So yeah, I remember wanting to be their friend and wanting to believe that they knew I was there. I felt like they were there to see me as a child, but I don't know how real that was. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just wishes, but yeah, that's what I used to feel like. That I felt like it. I felt like they were looking for me. That's why I was trying to figure out which one was doing it, but there was no beam.
Another of the members of my group, she lived on Creech Air Force Base, and her backyard, which she showed me photos of, opened up into these different ranges. And she remembers as a kid playing with children in her backyard that were not entirely human. You told me earlier on today that you feel that maybe you had an experience with tall white children when you were young.
Yes, I remember when I was about maybe 3-4 years old. We lived here in Indian Springs. My dad was in the Air Force. And I remember playing in our backyard, which was fenced off, but behind the fence was the desert. And my sister was a year younger than me. And I remember us being by ourselves, which was strange because my mother was very protective of us, but she was nowhere around. And I remember children, playing with children, but they didn't look like other children or dress like other children. And I also remember looking through like a viewfinder or something that you can look inside. And I remember seeing different images. Some images were familiar, like picnic table, the sunset, and then some images were more like alien, like the sky was purple, just different flashes. So I remember that. And
So your father was stationed at Nellis?
yes, he was stationed in Nellis, and well, actually not Nellis. He was stationed at Nellis also, but he was stationed here when we lived in Indian Springs.
So this is Creech, is that right?
Yes,
So he was stationed at Creech.
yes. I don't know if that's the name of it back then, but
No, I don't think it was.
Yeah. But I remember the Thunderbirds. I remember that.
Yeah,
We were
yeah.
really into the Thunderbirds.
So Creech is on the this highway. Creech is that side. Your house was also on that side of the highway?
I remember we lived on base. I'm not sure if it was on base or right across directly from base, because I was just a toddler then. But I do have pictures of us
Goodbye.
of us playing in the backyard, and I think that's where my memory, where I remember most because of some of the pictures. But after looking at that documentary, I forget what his name is.
Charlie, I think, wasn't it?
Charlie?
Charles or
He was a
Charles?
weatherman, and he mentioned that there was this tool that the tall whites would use to erase your memory. So I don't know if the thing I'm thinking of might have been something similar to that. I'm not sure. But I do feel that we did have encounters with the tall whites when I lived in Indian Springs when I was a
Right.
baby.
So
child.
you actually lived on the military base
Yes.
in Indian Springs, and your backyard opened up onto the military desert area,
Yes.
and that is where you played with children that didn't quite look human.
Right.
Do you remember how they did look?
I don't. I just remember there were children, and I remember my sister and us playing. And the strangest part to me was that my parents were nowhere around. That was strange. That we were in the backyard with our parents there.
Do you remember any details about those children at all?
No. That's very vague.
Okay.
But I
do you remember what games or how you were playing with the children?
I remember playing chase, running around, and then looking in that whatever that thing was.
Yeah. So that belonged to the children?
Yeah, it wasn't ours.
And were the pictures that you were looking at, were they moving images or like a slideshow?
I remember it being more like a slideshow.
Okay. In March 2021, I set up a special contact event in a publicly accessible area of the desert outside of Nellis and Creech Air Force bases, with the hope of connecting with the tall white beings who live there. During the event, we saw a number of alien phenomena in the sky, including a bright, luminous craft that flew in over the mountains to the northwest of us, appearing like a science fiction spacecraft coming out of hyperspace or warp speed. Although none of us were quick enough to catch the occurrence on video, one of us did manage to record the audio of our group's reaction to the craft.
Look at that there. 6 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
Right there. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. That was amazing.
Naomi has children who are also psychically perceptive, and when Naomi took them on a hike one time out there in the desert, one of her children saw tall whites out there beckoning her and them, you need to come out further this way, come out further into the desert, basically. And when she relayed that to me, that we interpreted as they're inviting us to go out further to where they are. So this summer, when we went out there, we drove for a long time, wasn't it, Naomi? Did you enjoy that drive?
Yeah.
That was not the answer I was expecting.
Next time, helicopter, please.
Huh?
Helicopter would be nice next time.
Next time we'll use a helicopter. Okay. It was something like a 3 or 4 hour drive. It wasn't supposed to be quite that long, but we had vehicles that couldn't handle the drive because the tracks were not very good, and then one of them had a flat tire, and we started off with 9 vehicles and ended up with 4 that made it. Basically, we went to the edge of the area, the area of land which is owned by the military, and we were looking. We were camped out at the face of a valley, at the mouth of a valley, and on the other side of the valley, that's where the tall white beings are known to live. And when we were out there, Naomi had a couple of experiences. Would you like to describe the experience where when we were meditating, remote viewing, you saw the being?
I only saw the face. It's huge forehead. It's like wearing like a helmet of kind.
Mm.
And very small eyes. It's just so cute. And then I noticed there are 3 or 4 like a sapphire kind of very deep blue stuff on the forehead. And also I noticed that skin was kind of translucent to me. You can cannot see through, but feels like it's like shadowish and growing from the inside. So I thought that is pretty. I didn't feel scared.
So the fact that it had the small eyes, that's consistent with tall whites, because tall whites are very humanoid when they are seen. They look like humans when they're seen physically. What you're describing, it fits with them being tall whites, but it also fits with you perceiving their extra-dimensional selves or their spiritual bodies. So after I'd finished doing the meditation, then we started talking to these beings, asking them, hey, can you come? Can you show yourselves to us? And this guy, Ed, who had never before done anything like this, I think he said he started to feel like a pressure in his forehead, or he started to feel like words were coming out of him, and he started to channel. He started to talk on behalf of one of the tall whites. Ed, do you sense anything?
Yeah. Try to open my eyes and keep closing them. And I feel like they pulled my soul. Can't tell yet.
You feel like they pulled your soul?
Yeah. I can't open my eyes.
You can't open your eyes?
No.
Do you feel comfortable?
Yeah. Pressure in my brow.
Do you think they can hear my words?
Yes.
Do you think if I were to ask them questions, they could answer those questions through you?
Yes.
And we had a conversation for about 5 minutes. We would really like to start a friendship with you if you're open to that. Is that something you're open to starting a friendship with us?
Okay.
Thank you. Can everybody in this group just radiate thanks and love to these beings that are here? And in that conversation, it was fairly slow. We didn't get a lot of information. What we did get is that the tall white who was communicating with us had a human name, in the same way that Range 4 Harry had a human name, or an earth name, not a human name, an earth name of Harry. This tall white being had an earth name of George.
My name is George. Earth name.
And it's interesting that they're picking these very basic earth names. And they tend to be, they're both names, I think, that people used a few decades ago more, probably. And that makes me think that maybe these beings are older, or have a longer lifespan. That, I don't know, I'm just like theorizing here. But we connected with George, and we went round and we introduced ourselves. And what's interesting is that as we were going around, George was saying things about each person, and some of the things that George was saying are things that these people said nobody else in this group could know that. For example, when we got to Elizabeth, who we call Liz, George was addressing her as Lizzie.
Hello, George, I'm Liz.
Lizzie.
And afterwards, she said, that's interesting because that's what I used to be called when I was younger, and that it was calling me Lizzie. That was interesting to her. It was like some kind of confirmation. You told us that your Earth name is George. Do you have a name that you use among your people, your species?
Yeah.
Is it a name that you can tell us?
No. Understand? No.
Okay. Can you tell us, are you here with close to this group just spiritually?
Spiritually.
Where are your biological bodies?
Here.
Are you under the ground or in the mountains?
No. Yes.
You're in the mountains.
Yes.
George, is it you that Naomi has seen with the 3 or 4 sapphires or blue stones in your forehead?
Yes.
At night time, it was very hot out there, and you felt that you didn't need a tent, so you slept out there just in your sleeping bag in the open. Can you explain what experiences you had in the night?
So I was sleeping outside next to Liz, and I hear footsteps just right here. So I'm like, who is walking there? And I looked at Liz, and she is kind of sleeping already. So I looked around and I don't see anything. Somehow I didn't feel any scared feeling or anything. So I went back on the lay down, and within like 15 seconds I started to hear again. Really, people, but somebody's walking. I can hear the little rocks, moving and real stepping. So I looked up over there, and Kevin was over there. He said he's gonna not gonna sleep or something. I just sit on the chair, and I saw a light over there. So no, it's not Kevin. There's no way Kevin. And I can see the light is kind of moving, so he's up, but not him.
So I slept out in the circle because I rode with somebody else, and the weather was great. So I think I probably slept out there for like 2-3 hours. And as I fell asleep, I woke up to almost like footsteps around the circle. I don't think it was that close, but I heard some footsteps. And I woke up, I had a flashlight, I shined it around to check, and I didn't see anything, but it was loud enough to wake me up from my deep sleep. So that was very interesting.
So I went back and I hear again. And I didn't know at the time why I didn't think that it might be a tall white walking around among us. So that's after the fact. Next morning, I realized it might be a tall white actually walking, but I didn't see anything.
Okay.
So it was very, very strange.
Can you recall, Naomi, the experiences of the other people? Didn't a couple of other people email you afterwards and let you know that they thought they'd experienced that they'd perceived tall whites at the base of the mountain or something like that?
Oh yes. One lady actually texted me that when we are gathering at the like a meditation place, she saw some beings at the foot of the mountain, like across from us or something. And she wrote that she's shy, so she didn't say anything.
Our camping experience with tall whites was the extraordinary culmination of 3 years of research, contact events, remote communications, diplomacy, and determination. For the attendees, it was a beautiful shared experience with 16 peaceful, loving humans and an exhilarating adventure with an advanced non-human species. It wasn't until I had returned home and looked at the night vision video footage from the event that I discovered this. In between meditations, while scanning the horizon with my night vision camera, something appeared in the sky above the mountains and flew down behind them. Could this be a simple lens flare? No. Not if it was the only anomaly that appeared in the many times that I scanned this area of the desert. And lens flares don't disappear behind mountains. Could it have been a meteor or a shooting star? As a space scientist who's seen many thousands of meteors in my lifetime, I don't think so. Unlike meteors, it seems to have luminous wisps of something coming off it sideways. Although it's impossible to prove conclusively, I think that this is a trans-dimensional, tall white vessel entering the sky above the mountain and flying down behind it or into it. So, when I hosted another contact event close to Las Vegas the following year, I held this image in my mind and telepathically asked the tall whites to appear again in the same way. And, just a few seconds later, they did. The large, bright object at the top of this video is the moon. The light that comes in from the bottom of the screen is a lens flare caused by the scattering of moonlight through the video camera's optics. And the object that flies down behind the mountain is, in my opinion, another tall white vessel, responding to my telepathic communications by mirroring the appearance of the vessel that I videoed the previous year. One of the regular attendees of my Las Vegas events had just returned home from doing a contact meditation in the desert. He looked up into the sky and tried one more time to connect with the tall whites.
I was here thanking them. I was just trying to send my thoughts out, thanking them, and that's when I decided to meditate a little in my head. That is when lights started appearing here, right here in this part of the sky. Talking about little lights that would pop out, shine, play with each other.
And to his astonishment, a gigantic mothercraft appeared above his house.
Appeared over the house, and it was right here, right in this position. From like far over here, straight right there. At an angle like that, and just right there.
He rushed into the house to get his mother, who came outside just in time to see the alien vessel flying away. A similar craft appeared to him a second time when he went into the desert to meditate with his father. Some of my psychic friends feel that they have encountered tall white aliens walking around Las Vegas disguised as humans.
And I've also seen a tall white in town. I stood right in front of him in Trader Joe's one time. And I didn't know what a tall white was at the time. He was really tall and thin and like a very unusual looking, very like the light blonde hair and everything. I found out those were their characteristics later on. But I have a tendency to be able to see through people's disguises really fast. And so I think I was seeing him and nobody else could. And so I started talking to him in my head. And I'm like, you're like a walking antenna, aren't you? And I was just like sort of chatting at him and being friendly and everything. And he turned right around and looked, because I was right behind him, and he looked right at me. And he got really scared. And then he checked out really fast and was nervous and dropping his pen and just disappeared right away. It was like weird. So, I mean, I can't prove anything, but I'm pretty sure that was a tall white.
How tall was he?
Oh, gosh, he must have been about like at least 6'5", very tall. He couldn't have been taller than that even, but I think it was 6'5".
In 2024, while I was talking to a group of contact event attendees in the desert, a bright, tall white vessel slowly appeared in the sky behind me, as though emerging out of higher dimensional space. I turned around to see it growing larger and brighter, and then slowly getting smaller and dimmer until it faded away completely. Although I didn't manage to turn on my video camera quickly enough to record it, the attendees' reaction in the following seconds offers some indication of just how amazing the experience was. Fantastic!
It was bright, and it just like
it kind of lit up. It lit up. It did just kind of wiggle a little. Yeah, it did. It was moving. It was moving, and then it lit up.
That was not a shooting star. That was not.
It didn't continue over us or anything. Yeah.
That was not an airplane.
Oh
That was not a satellite.
Wow, that was amazing. Good eye. Danny, oh my god.
It was like a shooting star, but then it like stayed there for a second.
Wow, then it got bright. Really bright.
Trying to compete for that top story.
Well, well, that's good. We've been successful already.
Maybe they're thanking us for believing in them, you know?
So what? Now I'm curious as to what you were about to what story like what? Because like they showed up to hear what you had to say.
And that's the big question. Why are tall white vessels showing up at my events? What is it that I say at my events that causes them to take notice? Why have tall whites chosen to become friends with me? The answer is very simple. Peace is my highest priority. To the extent that it's practically possible, I try to do no harm to anyone. I have a vision of universal peace, universal love, and universal well-being. I care about all conscious life forms unconditionally, without judgment or negative discrimination. And tall whites like that, and they support that. So I would describe you as a psychic who is able to tune into spiritual and ultra-dimensional realms and energies and beings, including human spirits and including non-human entities. Is that correct?
That's the perfect way to describe it, and I don't know of any other way to describe it.
So
yeah.
when beings come to you, when alien beings come to you, it's a very strong and real experience for you.
Yes.
Could you describe what happened when you first met me in person?
First of all, I was a nervous wreck. I was excited like a little girl, you know. I get to meet you in person for the first time. So come on, man. It was great because we've been having great times. And I went around the corner and I met, as I'm looking at the doorwell, going around the corner, and you're standing there and it's like, you know, and I could feel this energy flowing like all around you. When I held you, hugged you, it was like this immense amount of energy. And when I backed off, immediately I saw a reptilian, an Eben, and the tall white. That tall, he was 9 feet tall. He was very stoic mannered, you know, very quiet. But the feeling you did not get from him, you didn't get fear, you didn't get the feeling stay away. You were like, it was a loving presence, but we're not going to have face-to-face conversation right now. Okay. And he literally sort of hung back from the other two beings that were there that was like, let's do this. They were very joyful and happy to be there. And he walked down the hall and stood in the hallway. And I remember one point when you asked me, where do you see them? And I said, he's right down the hall. And you got up and you went down the hall. Hey, and I'm like, well, he's leaving now. He's going in the other direction. But he was still presently in the home, and you can feel that presence. It was just all around, very, very loving, very, very kind. The long blonde hair, the same type of suit, and their vibration, his vibration, okay, it's really high. The vibration is really, really high, and it is extremely intimidating. And I don't mean that in a negative way. If you are not used to it, you're kicked in with that hormone, the fight or flight hormone that just kicked in because there's energy around you and you're not, where is it coming from? What is it? Well, it's his energy, and it is like boom, 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 boom. If you're not prepared for that, you literally will actually put up blocks. You may not be able to communicate. This is just things I see for myself.
Okay.
You won't be able to communicate. I need you to be relaxed, because the more and more we engage with one another, the less you're going to have that fight or flight mode happen.
Now, this tall white being came into that house with me, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Why do you think the tall white and the reptilian and the Eben were coming into the house with me?
You were on tour, and you were you're on this huge tour, peace, love, universal love. It's just even when you say it, for some folks it's like comment with it, but for them it's so in the heart. It is what they desire for us, and it is a goal, because the future is we're all together. That's the future. I actually can see that happening. I really do. And they were there for support, and they were also your protection team. That's the best way to put it, your protection team.
I host frequent online events in which we meditate, astrally project to different non-human intelligences, and remotely communicate with them. During one of those events, a tall white being seemed to give one of my psychic friends some kind of ultra-dimensional positioning technology.
A couple of years ago, we were doing a remote viewing, and we were going to the Galactic Council. And as we actually got onto the craft, it's this area that it's like a meeting place for everyone. There's all kinds of activity going on, and the group was right there in the center area right there. And this tall white approached me. He was extremely tall. He was like 9 feet tall. He had long, very white hair. It was almost white, and he was wearing something that looked like a bio kind of like suit. There was like this weird collar that kind of came up. It was white, but the rest was a blue, but it would shimmer. It was like it was his bio suit. And as I'm standing there, I'm seeing this being, and this being walks straight up to me, and he bows his head and does this. And he hands me this triangular looking like device, and I see it. And as I look into this device, it's like a hologram inside the device. And it came up and it showed me this like star system. And it looked like Orion's belt was in this. And then I heard you say, okay, we're moving into the chamber where we're actually going to be at the table, you know, talking to the beings. And as I begin to turn and I'm raising my head up and I turn like this device disappears and goes into my forehead. And I can, to this day, it's there. I want to say that it's like a location device. It's also like a pictograph, like showing me, hey, this is what our galaxy looks like. You know, this is where we're coming from.
And when we, as a group, astrally projected to Area 51, which is close to where the tall whites live, a tall white entity seemed to meet us there and act as our guide and protector.
I suddenly started seeing these tunnels, and as we were going through, it was just weird, but all of a sudden I felt a presence walking up behind me, and then this hand lands on my shoulder like this. And this hand stayed there pressing. And as I walk, it was like an escort, and I realized this is a tall white. This is a male tall white, but I never could turn around to look. That was not permitted. Don't turn around and look. Just go forward. I'm with you, is what I heard. I'm with you. And we went through, well, wherever I went in this remote viewing, the presence of this tall white remained with me the entire time, and I could feel his hand on me the entire time. Now, when we were finishing up this remote viewing, the hand just went away, and I could hear and feel love. I could feel it, just love vibrate, and I am with you. And that's all I sensed, and it just completely disappeared at the end of the remote viewing.
How do you interpret that? Do you think that that tall white male was guiding you or protecting you?
Both.
So we did an astral projection to Area 51, and you had a guide and a protector who was a tall white.
Yes.
So that's what we know about tall whites. Now, we're going to do remote viewing to tall whites in just 2 or 3 minutes. But we're going to get ourselves comfortable and close our eyes and relax our bodies. And our spirits leave our bodies now. And as a collective union of spirits, we find ourselves in the desert, northwest of Las Vegas, in the location where these tall white beings live. And we smile at them. We radiate love and friendship and peace